Volgende het ons 'n heerlike kuier met iemand wat lank terug in die land was en nou 'n naam vir haarself gemaak het en 'n redelike groot naam vir haarself gemaak het oor see. Die Suid-Afrikaans gebore Nieu-Seelandse komediant Urzila Carlson kuier vanoggend saam met ons. Ons leer haar 'n bietjie beter ken. Goeiemôre Urzila.
Hallo, hoe gaan dit nou?
Yes, baie goed. Jy praat amazing Afrikaans.
Wel, ek's meis van Benoni af. Jy waai nie uit Suid-Afrika uit in jou 30's en dan verloor jy net Afrikaans. Al hierdie immigrante wat na 6 maande skielik Afrikaans verloor het, ek bekommer my mors dood oor die skole waarin daai mense was, want ek weet nie hoe dit moontlik is nie.
Urzila, it's an honor having you here today. Ek sal 'n bietjie na Engels praat. You can cross over to Brits if you want to. But it's lovely having you with us today, and it's great to have like a real celebrity because, you know, I'm sitting here with Elsa. She's not a big celebrity like you.
I did stalk her online, so, you know. I know, it's kind of weird whenever I go anywhere and people sort of ask me for a photo or they... I was still blown away by it every time that happens, you know, or when I get on the plane and people keep staring. In the beginning, it was strange. I was like, what are these people looking at? And then I realized it's because they've seen me on telly or they've seen my Netflix special or whatever. And, you know, but it's still strange.
Just as a bit of background to our viewers, please just give us an idea. When did you leave South Africa? Where are you now?
Well, I left in 2006 and then moved to New Zealand. And immediately, as soon as I got to New Zealand, because I used to work for the newspaper in South Africa, and then when I moved to New Zealand, I started working in advertising. I did ads and stuff. And then a couple of years in, I started doing comedy, and then immediately started going over to Australia. So I'm in Australia 6 months of the year and in New Zealand 6 months of the year. But then... everywhere, you know, when the world was still open pre-COVID, I'd know exactly where I was, what time of the year. Like in August, I'd be in Edinburgh for the Edinburgh Fringe. I'd be in Montreal in July for the Just for Laughs Festival. So then I would travel all over the world and do comedy and even Southeast Asia, which you wouldn't think my comedy would go over well, but I did really well for 3 weeks. I did everywhere from Hong Kong to KL and sold out everywhere and people just seemed to like it. It was good.
Nou Urzila, ek wil nou ook uitkom by die feit dat jy weet ons leef nou in 'n tyd van die pandemie wat nog steeds met ons is. Ja. En miskien moet 'n mens 'n bietjie gesels oor die rol van komedie en humor in vandag se lewe en tyd. Hoe sou jy dit beskryf of opsom?
Wel, op die oomblik, ek dink daar's genoeg politiek wat rondgaan. Daar's genoeg van alles. En so die oomblik toe die pandemie slaan, toe was al 'n groot opwerking van mense wat sê, comedians gaan nou online gaan, ons werk op Zoom, en jy kan video's bestel vir jou vriende of jou familie, en dan sal ek nou 'n funny snaakse video vir jou ma of iemand maak, en toe sê ek net, weet jy wat, ek dink ons almal is op tot ons oë in hierdie ding, en ons almal gaan sukkel. Soos mense sal vir my sê, sal jy 'n snaakse boodskap maak vir my pa, hy gaan deur 'n moeilike tyd, en dan dink ek, skatlam, ons almal gaan deur 'n moeilike tyd, maar ek het elke keer as ek in lockdown was, want ek het baie hotel quarantine gedoen, omdat ek nog steeds tussen lande gegaan het, want ek is op 'n paar TV-shows in Australië wat hulle daar film, so ek moes oorgegaan het en dan is ek in die hotel quarantine. En dan maak ek sulke snaakse video's elke liewe dag van die lockdown en ek het dit documentary genoem. Net sodat mense almal sien, weet jy wat, ons almal is in dieselfde boot. Dit maak nie saak wat jy doen of waar jy bly of ons almal doen dit taaf op die oomblik en jy weet, ek dink dit is baie belangrik dat comedians op hierdie stadium net funny goed uitsit en probeer om mense se dag lig te maak. Dit is ons werk en dis wat ons moet doen.
Jou inspirasie vir jou komedie, is dit alles, dis meestal based on your personal experience, your lifestyle, your way of looking at the world, obviously like every comedian does. But how has that changed, as you refer to the COVID situation, the pandemic, how has that changed in the last couple of years? I mean, you've reached unbelievable heights in TV, there, but
Yeah.
but your approach to comedy, has that changed at all? Has it stayed the same?
It has. I'm sort of more aware of the fact that we are all fatigued of COVID. Nobody wants to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to do is when I do get to do a live show, which let's face it, that doesn't happen that often anymore. But I still tour. I'm still doing live shows because stand-up comedy is my number one favorite thing to do. And then as soon as I get on stage, I always go, now I'm going to talk about COVID. I'm giving us, say if I'm there for an hour, I go, I'm going to talk about COVID. I'll give it max 5 minutes. I won't go over that time. And then I say to them, because I'm sick of it, so I'm sure you're sick of it. And then people will start clapping. I'm like, yeah, we're tired of hearing about it.
Yeah.
But then I also think it'll be silly not to get a few jokes out of it, because once it's finished, it's finished. Then I can't go back and go, like I ate my own body weight in food, and everyone was cooking and baking like we were housewives from the 1950s.
So how would you describe your comedy and humor?
Mine is observational stuff. It's the stuff that we all go through. But in saying that, I don't divulge too much about myself, and because I don't talk about my family at all. I never go in the magazines. And I see what people Google, and it's always like my kids or my wife or where do I live or what, my income, which is weird. But I never divulge stuff like that. But I always think the things that, as a mutual experience, the thing that we all go through, like relationships or travel and holidays and school drop off, and how you can be dealing with Sarah van der Merwe or someone who's really good at driving, but then as soon as they go to school drop off, no one knows what they're doing, and it's just absolute chaos outside that school. And it's like, you better strap in because all of a sudden you're at Kyalami, so just stuff like that, just stuff that we all go through. And I always say, you get the people who look at a situation and go, what's the worst thing that can happen here? Then you look at people who look at a situation and go, what's the best thing that can happen here? And I look at a situation and go, what's the funniest thing we can get out of this?
And then I would also like to get to your autobiography. I mean, rolling with the punchlines. Just tell us a bit more in terms of what we can expect when reading this book.
Well, the publisher approached me and they said, do you want to write a book? And I thought, I will. And because I say, I don't divulge too much, but I thought if I'm going to write it, I've read autobiographies in the past, and then you feel like you've been robbed. I feel like, I've learned nothing from this person. So then I thought, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. I'm going to talk about, everything. And I started right at the beginning, sort of growing up in South Africa, my experience growing up in the apartheid years, and my dad being a miner and us traveling a lot, moving a lot as kids, and just growing up really poor, but being super happy as a kid, not even knowing that we were super poor, and then just how I just decided one day in the spur of the moment, I bought a newspaper at the traffic light, and I thought, I want to immigrate. And then there was an ad in the Star that says, do you want to immigrate? Why not New Zealand? And I thought, can't think of one reason why not. So all of that stuff's in the book, and then how I moved to New Zealand and, just sort of the whole thing, because it was pretty tough. And then you realize once you move that, it's never going to be home. Your new country will never be home, but your old country also don't have a lot of eyebrows left for you, because they're like, who left?
Absolutely. Ursula, we're going to chat a little later. We're going to chat later. We're just quickly going to go to 'n advertensiebreekie en dan gesels ons verder met Ursula oor haar ervarings en oor haar lewe as 'n komediant in die buiteland. Ons gesels weer vanmôre met die Suid-Afrikaans gebore Nieu-Seelandse komediant Urzila Carlson, en ons leer haar 'n bietjie beter ken vanmôre. Urzila, you've had might I say, a meteoric rise in comedy from when you started in 2008, eventually being awarded by the New Zealand Guild of Comedy Guild best female performer comedian. I mean, and now not now. You've been in a Netflix special, and now you have your own Netflix special.
Yes. Yeah, a couple of Netflix specials. Every time when I think this is it, I can't imagine there's something better than this. to me, as soon as I started doing comedy, I thought my big dream is to go to Montreal and do the Just for Laughs festival. I thought that's where comedy happens. That's where it's, massive. That's where all the big comedians started. And then the first year I got invited to go to Montreal, I went, this is it. Now I've clocked it. I've done comedy. And then off the back of that, I got an invitation to do a 30-minute Netflix special. And then that did really well. And then they offered me a 1-hour Netflix special. And every time it's surreal. I think it's not going to get better than this. And then the next year it does.
Mm. Now, we have to ask, which comedians do you enjoy most?
Well, it's like music. It's like sometimes you're in the mood for country and sometimes you listen to a bit of metal, it's sort of, but at the minute, and a long-time favorite of mine is Jim Gaffigan. I love him. He is as dry as anything. He's that guy at the braai that you want to stand closest to. He's just that guy. And then I love Wanda Sykes. She does a bit about a racist dolphin that'll make you laugh till you cry. It is very funny. And it's sort of every time you look at anyone's photo of them swimming with dolphins, you're going to revisit in your head that bit about the racist dolphin. So I love comedy like that. That makes you think when you just in your everyday life and you look at something and then you just start laughing by yourself like a lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
Are you that comedian that walks around with a little book and a pen?
Yes, always. I always have paper with me and a pen, and I make voice notes on my phone, and I make little notes in the notepad on my phone. And I will wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and I will write something down, and then I'll wake up the next morning and just remember that I had written something down, and I'd be so excited. And then I look at it and it says unicorn peanut butter, don't get shoes. And I'm like, what the, and then I realized I was half asleep. But sometimes, just sometimes there's something, in there that can make one joke, because it's sort of a process. Like, you don't know, you just think about something and then there's a joke there, but you don't know what it is yet. So it can take like a week or 2 weeks to come up with a 4-minute bit.
Yeah.
But that 4-minute bit can be a gala set. And it's that gala set that gets you noticed, with promoters or with that, or, because when you think for yourself, when you watch little funny clips of comedians, it's little 2-minute bits or 3-minute bits that grab you. So if you have an idea and you jot it down, then you just keep working in your head and think, what can make this funnier? Because sometimes just changing a number, saying I had 4 donuts for breakfast is not as funny as saying, I had 7.5 donuts, half because the one that sprinkles, and we all know it's not a real donut then, So you just kind of have to keep working on it.
Mm. Now, we have to maintain the balance here. So I've got a serious question. Because I'm sure you've mentioned that you are a meisie from Benoni. I'm also from the East Rand. So, yes, I just wanted to mention that as well. Yes. But I have to ask, I'm sure that you still follow the news in South Africa. And when you take a look at the different countries, New Zealand and Australia and South Africa, how would you describe the comparison or the differences in terms of leadership in the different countries?
You know what? It's very chalk and cheese, really, because population-wise, I think New Zealand is an easier thing to manage. We're basically a wedding. There's not a lot of people. Everyone sort of knows each other. So our Prime Minister and her government, they sort of a very hands-on approach, very honest, but they can be.
Yeah.
Whereas in Australia, because, they're sort of more right-leaning, centre-right, I'd say, very right. And because every state basically runs itself, and then they like in America. And then South Africa, it seems there's a bit more, they take the chaotic approach.
Yes, absolutely.
By the sounds of it, It's like there's no cohesion. Here, I feel like if something goes down, like COVID happens, even now, we have the big protests that all over the world, globally, you see the protests, people protesting against the mandates and vaccines. And so here in New Zealand, the government as a whole have gone, the opposition as well go, we're not going to sit down and have a conversation with these people because they're not coming at it from a rational point and they're not peacefully protesting. They are aggressive and they are, sort of going at people. So they then as a group decide we're not going to deal with this. They can basically, like a naughty child, just sort themselves out. And as long as they keep everyone else, leave everyone else alone, we're just going to let them, be angry and wreck their room.
Yeah.
Whereas I think South Africa has never had that.
No.
Where they go, we will all agree and we're all going to be unified with it. It's just, I think it's good with sport. You get sport will unify people, but not the government.
I must admit, it's rather amusing for us looking at the way that the anti-vaxxers in New Zealand has been protesting. To us, it seems a little like a kindergarten party. But I mean, they haven't burnt down a town yet. There's no long-hauling trucks that have been hijacked and driven through hospitals or anything. So it's very entertaining watching it from our side.
No, they're just camping. They're just sitting, on Parliament grounds, camping and singing songs, and there's volunteers taking them food. It looks quite inviting, except for the fact that the weather's been terrible in Wellington because it's Wellington and it rains all the time there. So if I was going to organise a protest, it would be up in Auckland or up in Northland that they call the winterless north. I would do it up there. I would not go for Wellington.
It's basically like having a braai in Cape Town in the winter.
Yes, exactly. It's like, what are you doing? It's July.
Family,
Pack it up.
Yeah.
Urzila, your future plans and dreams.
Oh.
Yeah. You are the serious one. Look, honestly, I'm in my late 40s. Today's my birthday, and I just look at it and
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm like, you know what? If I can have more of the same every year, I'm happy with that. If it gets better, it gets better. But I think ultimately I always say, yeah, I'd love to be the next Oprah. But also that seems like a lot of work. So I'm just happy to keep touring. I'd love to tour South Africa. I'd love to do a massive world tour because, of course, my Netflix special came out during our first lockdown. It came out in July, my first 1 hour, July 2020, when the whole world was in lockdown. And then people from all over the world sent me messages from Israel, Sweden, South Africa. Like, when are you touring? I'm like, never, by the looks of it, because no one knows what's happening with COVID. But now that, we can sort of look through the curtains and we can see we can leave again. I'm touring Australia soon. I'm leaving in March. And then, so there's a bit of hope, but then I just want to tour. That's what I want to do, and do, 1 or 2 really fun TV shows that I do now. And then just have summers off and relax.
Now, Urzila, unfortunately, that's all the time we have, but please promise us that you'll come and visit us.
I want to see the tour.
Yes, absolutely, and invite us to come and see the tour.
Then I'll even pay for my own tickets.
Yes, me too. So, do we have a deal?
Look, if you bring me one of those plants in the background, I'll let you in for free.
They'll be fine by then because they're mostly plastic.
Yes. So we have ourselves a deal. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, team.
Thanks.
And happy birthday
Happy
again
birthday, yes,
from our
absolutely.
side. Ja.
Thank you.
Goed, so ons is nou verwar van die tegniese span. Was nie bewus van die feit dat ons voor die tyd nou afgespreek het wie doen wat nie.
Ja, dis my eerste keer.
Ja, asseblief ons is om in hierdie stadium net 'n bietjie ons twin genade, nê? Ja. Ons moet maar. Goed, so dit was dan Urzila Carlson wat vanoggend met ons gesels het.